Good morning, YouTube family. It's Andrea here at VW Family Farm, and today I'm in the kitchen. I'm gonna make another sourdough recipe for you guys. So today I've got my sourdough starter here, and it's time to make something with it. I've had this out for a while now, feeding and dividing it every single day, just trying to get it revived. I kind of neglected it in the fridge, which is okay to do every once in a while because everybody needs a break. I was actually taking a break from bread when I was having some stomach problems, but I'm much better, and I am dedicating myself to, if I'm gonna eat bread products, to make them soaked or sprouted, all those kinds of things. So I pulled this baby out. I've been feeding it, taking good care of it. It is thriving, and I'm making all kinds of stuff with it. The family's loving it. So today, I'm gonna show y'all how I make English muffins, sourdough English muffins. These are delicious. They're a very close copycat of one of the very famous fast food joints that sells sausage, egg, and cheese McMuffins. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. These taste just like those, but these are healthy for you. There's very few ingredients, and they're actually good for your gut instead of harmful. So let's get started. This is so super easy. Also, I wanted to mention, I love when y'all tag me on Instagram, and you've tagged Ben on Facebook of all the sourdough stuff you're making. That's awesome. I saw last night on Sharon at Southern Bella Home, she made a chicken pot pie with sourdough as the crust. I thought that was super cool. Y'all check her out. She does lots of really cool stuff on Instagram, and she also has a YouTube channel she puts videos up on. So check her out. I'm gonna put a link to her in the description. But there's lots of you who are doing sourdough stuff. Tag me in those. I love to see them. It gives me ideas, and I'm going to try to start sharing on these sourdough videos, which are not super regular. I just do them as I'm doing sourdough recipes. I share them with you guys. It's not something I'm just making up to do for you. So that's why they're kind of sporadic. So I want to start mentioning some of y'all that are doing sourdough. And I saw Jareth at Reap What You Sow. She has started a starter watching my videos, and she's getting into sourdough as well. So it's that time of year we're all thinking about getting healthy, and sourdough is just a great way to do that. Especially if you're gonna eat bread, it's the best way. So I'm gonna leave a link to Jerry's channel below as well. But let's get started making English muffins. First thing to do is take your jar that has your starter in it and divide it. You can see all those bubbles down in there. At least I hope you can. I hope it's focused to where you can. That's a good sign, all those bubbles. If you only have a few bubbles, you're not ready to make bread yet, but you can definitely make other things. You can see, I know this jar probably looks nasty, but this is my tried and true sourdough jar, and I'm out for a healthy starter, not a beautiful jar. So I just don't change it. It's a good thing, and I just leave it alone. It's got a really large colony of good things growing in there, so I've just not changed it. If that bothers you, you can definitely put it in a clean jar, but this is just how I do it. So you can see this is a quart jar, so there's probably at least a cup and a half in there. So for this recipe, I need a half a cup to start with. So I'm doing this in my KitchenAid stand mixer. That's how I do lots of stuff. So that sourdough starter that I showed you, I'm just dumping in about half of it. You really need about a half a cup to start this recipe. And this is gonna make 8 English muffins. So as you watch this video, if you want more at a time, you can definitely double this or whatever you need to do. Okay, the only 2 ingredients you need on this step are a cup of water and 2 cups of flour. Okay, I'm gonna attach my dough hook onto my mixer. You could definitely mix this by hand. I just love this handy little tool. If that came with your mixer and you don't know what it is, it's an awesome little thing to have. It's called a dough hook. I use it to make all kinds of bread. So now I'm just gonna turn this on. Start on low or you will explode flour everywhere. And then when it gets going, I will bump it up a little higher. I'm really just trying to get these liquids and flours incorporated together. That's the goal. Not trying to knead it or anything at this point. got it good and mixed, that's where I stop. All right, so now that that's mixed up, I'm just gonna put a towel over it. A lot of times I will do this at night when I'm fixing supper and then let that sit overnight. And then in the morning, I'm ready to finish it up and make English muffins for breakfast. This is actually morning time. So it was time to do something with my starter. So I'm actually gonna let this sit all day and make these tonight while I'm making supper. And then they will be made for breakfasts for the rest of the week. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cover that bowl up, just sit it out of the way in a semi-warm spot. A lot of times I will sit this bowl, my bowl is stainless steel, in my oven with the light on. That gives just enough heat to make bread rise or whatever I'm doing. I've made pizza dough a couple times out of sourdough in the last week, and it gave it just enough heat to get it going because my house is kind of cool this time of year. But if your house is warm, you're definitely okay just leaving it on the counter. All right, last thing to do before we just walk away for the day is feed this starter that's left in this jar. So I took half of it out. Now I have to replenish with flour and water to feed it. Now I've kind of always fed it a 1/4 cup of flour and then 3/8 cup water. That just means that's just slightly less water. It's not a super precise measurement. It means a little more flour than water. But recently I have been reading up more on sourdough, and someone recommended feeding theirs 1/2 cup flour and then a little bit less of that of water. And that's what I've been doing. It doesn't really matter. It's gonna react the same way. What that means is it just gives me more to work with. Like if I feed this 1/2 cup flour, which I'm fixing to do, and then a little less than that in water, then tomorrow morning or whenever I feed it and divide it again, I've got more to work with. And so that seems to work better for me because I've got enough to go ahead and start a recipe. Because if I had a lot less than that in this jar, I'd have to get some out and get it fed to get enough to start a recipe. So this way, I'm pretty much just good to go tomorrow on starting a loaf of bread or whatever else I want to do. Okay, y'all, you can see it has risen pretty nicely. It's been in the oven with the light on for probably about 8 hours or so. Normally you're just gonna do this overnight, so there's no super set time to it. Now you're gonna sprinkle on top of this a teaspoon of baking soda, a teaspoon of salt, and a tablespoon of honey. You're just gonna drizzle that, kind of just plop it right there on the top. Our honey, this to bake with, I use some that has started to crystallize, so that's why it looks a little clumpy. It's fine. Okay, so at this point, you're gonna use a wooden spoon and just kind of push all that in, kind of cut it in, stir. You don't want to stir like outrageous. I mean, I wouldn't probably put this back in the mixer and stir that much, but you're just gonna try to get that kind of incorporated. Don't stress too much about it because you're about to need it. Now, this is the part that might feel a little bit strange to you because you're about to knead something that's kind of doughy. So you're gonna put a little olive oil on your hand and a little splash. You can do this on your counter. My countertop is tile, so I'm gonna use a cookie sheet because it just makes a big mess on the counter and I can't get it cleaned up really good. So this olive oil will make it not stick to your hands. So we're gonna take our batter. Okay, so at this point the dough's quite wet, and you're gonna need this for just 2 or 3 minutes. You can see it's still sticking a little bit, and sometimes I use flour instead of the olive oil, and that probably would have been a better idea. Makes it not stick as much, but really you're just kneading this to get the honey and the baking soda and the salt incorporated. That's the only point here. Okay, so I've got that good and incorporated. I kneaded it for just a couple minutes, not very much. Okay, now I'm just taking a pizza cutter and I'm gonna cut these into roughly 8 same size portions. It's not a huge deal, and the shape honestly does not matter at this point. So I've got those cut apart. Okay, I've got another cookie sheet over here with flour on it, and I floured my hands. I'm just gonna pick these up. They've been cut, so they should come apart. And I'm just gonna lightly flour them and kind of shape them. And then I'm gonna put them on a piece of parchment paper, or I could put them on this floured cookie sheet to rest for about an hour. All right, so there they are. You could also have used cornmeal to shape them if you are uncomfortable using a little more flour that's not had time to sour. You could use sprouted flour at this point, just whatever makes you happy. And then this is just a piece of parchment paper. I'm gonna let them rest there for about an hour. Okay, so after about an hour, you're going to heat a cast iron skillet to about medium, and you're gonna just let that heat for a couple minutes to get warmed up. Okay, so after you've heated it for a few minutes, very carefully pick up your English muffins and transfer them onto here. You're gonna cook, once your skillet is warm, you're gonna cook about 5 minutes per side. And so after the first 5 minutes, you're gonna flip them, and just be careful. You don't wanna deflate them because they're gonna plump up as they cook. So just flip them very carefully. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do 2 batches. This is a 12-inch skillet, pretty good size. If you have a griddle that spans 2 burners, you could probably actually get all of them on there. So, and you're gonna have to play with your stove. I go about medium, but you don't want it too warm or you'll burn them. Too low and you won't get them cooked in the middle. So it's been about 5 minutes. You can see how beautifully they're cooking. I usually try to flip them that way and flip this part to the middle that was on the outside. And cook them another 5 minutes. So that's it. Aren't they beautiful? So if you don't feel like they're completely done after 5 minutes on each side, you can cook them a little more on each side if you need to. Just don't let them burn. Or you could always pop them in your oven for about 5 minutes on 350. So that's it. We're about to get busy eating supper. We're gonna eat some of these just buttered with our supper, and then I'm gonna save some for breakfast in the morning. You can just put some egg or cheese or bacon or sausage or whatever you prefer on them. They're really delicious. I hope you give them a try. They do freeze well. You can go ahead and make breakfast sandwiches out of them and then just heat them up in the morning. You can freeze them or refrigerate them or whatever. They're really good. They don't keep as long as store-bought English muffins, so they're not gonna keep for weeks and weeks. They will eventually mold, but hey, that's what real food does, right? Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys later. God bless. Ooh, I think they look just like store-bought. I'm so proud of these things. They're so yummy and delicious. Butter. Butter makes everything good.